Alrighty, here we are. What we're ended up doing is, yeah, we're kind of doing some stuff here, and let me get a few things going. We're gonna get some small details out of the way. Stop that! Get out of the way. That's not how that works. Okay, I think we're good. I think we're good. Okay. Welcome back to the Varied Life. We're going to be doing Necron Spray Paint base color test. It's going to continue, and we had a variety of paint colors. And so, if we take a look at that, what we end up seeing is the various spray paints that we ended up using. So we tested those out a little bit and did some brown and wash. We got George pops in and says howdy. We got Zombie Hunter. Hey, it's been a while. Good to see you all. Glad you're here. Yeah, it's been quite the interesting little thing and doing our little testing, and that was in the previous video. I decided, since I'm going to get into Warhammer 40K, I'm going to get into the Necrons. So kind of like the Eternal Robots, I guess they reanimate, repair themselves, and so they're kind of a force to be reckoned with on that end. So they can take damage and repair and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see what happens. Like I said, worst case scenario, I get some cool models and they'll sit on the shelf and look cool. Best case scenario, I'll learn how to play Warhammer 40K and I'll enjoy it and have cool models that will sit on the shelf and look cool. Okay, so yeah. You got to forgive me. I just got back from a hyperbaric chamber treatment, so a little fuzzy, little sleepy. Get inside that chamber and just like I'm ready for a nap. So that's what we're going to end up doing. So anyway, we're going to jump right into this. Well, maybe not jump right into it. Maybe I need to show you because I need to do that and I need to do that. Is it that one? Or is it that one? It's these two. Okay. So with Necrons, Games Workshop charges an inordinate amount of money for their plastic models, which is insane. And yet I'm going to get into it. So we'll see how that goes. That's why it's going to probably be a one-time thing to see if I like it or not. Zombie said he's ready for a nap anytime. Yeah, I know. Naps are a thing when you get older. And yeah, it's being retired, you're able to do that. So if I go to the gym and I work out and I'm like, oh, I feel like a nap, it's nap time. But now, dun dun dun, George says, wait until you start printing and painting the vehicles. Yeah, we're going to see. We're going to see how that goes. And talking about printing, I fired up the resin printer. And what I decided to do to help me prepare to paint the Games Workshop Necrons Combat Patrol that I'm going to end up getting, I want to practice on something first, so I decided, you know what, I'm going to purchase things that are way less expensive than Games Workshop, and so I came across My Mini Factory, and if we take a look at this, we have My Mini Factory. We'll drag this over here, and this is basically a Necron that is kind of like a proxy unit. So we can see that he kind of looks like, kind of similar to what Games Workshop has, kind of. So what we're going to end up doing is we're printing that guy out, and then we're also printing this guy out. The Imhotep Master of Storms, which is kind of like one of the lowered figures in Games Workshop. It's so kind of similar. I think that would be a good way to, and those are all the different pieces, so to resin print this. So I spent a couple of bucks, you know, $8 for that guy, and it was like, what was it, $4 for that guy. So I figured I'd print those out. So I brought up the Saturn III Ultra, and I sliced all that stuff in Lychee Slicer. It's printing, so in about 3.5, 4 hours, we'll find out if it worked or not, because I replaced the FEP on my Saturn III Ultra and I haven't tested it out yet. So I figured just go big or go home and we'll see what happens. But in light of that, we can go back and yeah, we can check out our little paint deal there. So that's what we're going to end up doing. So what'll end up is I got to run through some things. So I've got that. I've got that. I don't think well, I'll leave that in there. I'll get rid of that one, that view, and then we'll just go back to to that one there. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to move on over to the paint station. And hello, quick little trip. And we also have a bonus thing that we're going to end up doing too. So that's going to be kind of interesting. So this is the Warhammer 40,000. Yeah, you can see the similarities on the guy that I'm printing out. And yeah, it's just kind of like a robot war type thing. And it's a strategy game, tabletop. So yeah, we're going to try to continue and learn how to do that. There's a lot of rules. So before we start with our green glow, we decided that we're going to do Tesseract, and then we have Goss Green. This is an airbrush from Games Workshop, or from Army Painter, and this is Citadel paint, so we got to mix these things up. And we painted some white spots on here to kind of replicate the orbs that we see on some of those characters. So, and we're going to get this going, get our tablet going so we can see what's going on, and if we read any comments. And we're going to kind of jump into this. And we'll go over each of these. So we have Krylon all-in-one. It's a primer paint. We have a dark metallic version, and then we had a metallic silver, which was, wow, that was glittery Joe. It was quite the interesting color. And then we had a gold, and then we had Rust-Oleum, and then a metallic silver, which was incredibly silver. And we painted the left side with some dark wash, and then we painted the right side with a brown wash to see what those colors would look like. And because I want to try to use a paint that's cheaper than the GW paints. And the GW paint is really expensive, so yeah, that's why I wanted to go with this. So let's just start off on the silver, and we'll see. There we go. And there is the silver. So it kind of reminds you of a knight on the left side, and then it's kind of like a copper with the silver on the other side there. So that's what it looks like there. And those white parts, we're going to be painting the green on there. So we'll see how this fares. So that was the shiny, shiny silver. Then we did the gold. The gold was interesting in the fact that it wasn't as shiny as the silver, which I was kind of surprised. And there we've got like the dark on the left, and then we've got the brown on the right. And that kind of makes it look like a copper color, doesn't it? So we'll do a number of those, and we'll see what happens. And then we have this guy over here. You know what? I just need to get rid of that view. That view is just not doing us any good. So let me go back to the computer, and I'll just go ahead and do that, and get rid of that guy. And we'll just go back, and we'll just have this view from the good camera. The good camera. And here is the metallic silver, which has a ton of sparkles. Sparkly Joe is what I call this guy. And you can see on the base there just how many sparkles there are. And then with the brown and with the black kind of wash, that kind of is redeemable. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how that one comes out. But then the Fusion Krylon metallic dark metal ended up, I think this is looking the best so far. So there's the dark. And it's a little sparkly, But then we get to the brown, and that kind of redeems it. So we'll see how that goes. Or I might just have to splurge. And a lot of people will use like a dark metal color, kind of like a lead belcher color. There's another color that I could use, which is with our Art Deco paints, which is a black pearl that's my lead belcher proxy, I guess you could say. And this color comes out really nice. So we might even do, I don't know if you can see that. Boom. That's kind of a nice color there as well. So further testing will be done. The good thing about these spray cans, got a lot of spray paint, and it's not that expensive. I think it's like 10 bucks a can or something. The Art Deco paints are pretty good. They're inexpensive. I can get those on Amazon. These I have to get at the military base, at the PX, so we'll see how that goes. You're kind of left to the supply and demand. So we have our test pieces, and again, we used our washes, so we did that. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to paint some green on here, and we'll do like one side with Tesseract, and we'll do the other side with the airbrush paint. And airbrush paint is pretty good because it's thinned out already. The Citadel color, the Tesseract, is already pretty good. And we'll see how this interacts with the white. It should just shine through there really, really nicely. So I'll just put a little bit on here. And we will start the paint just to kind of get us an idea of what this glow could look like with the Tesseract. And we might have to go back and do 2 coats, but we'll see how it goes. We'll just kind of hit the side, and we'll see how that ends up. And that'll give us kind of a little bit of an idea if we can get like a glow on those. So, and I think could just do a little bit around here, kind of mimic the glow around that would emanate. And I don't know, we'll see what happens. So there is our Tesseract. And this is just one, this is white. I didn't do any, different colors or anything like that. I just kind of throw that on the white, and let me see, that turns out not bad. So we'll just go down the line and we'll do the same thing. And we'll just hit it up and continue on. Oh, I forgot to do his eye. That's right. Because I did do a little bit of white in the eye. It'll be interesting to see. Let's just go ahead and we'll just knock this eye out. Of course, it's got a little bit of spillover, but one thing about the white is that it really makes this Tesseract pop. And so that'll be a good little color there. And just slap this on here. And then again, we could kind of do just like a little bit of a little bit of going around and try to paint a little bit of a glow on this, on some of this area. With like a thin, almost a thin type of glaze. So we'll see how that works. So, yeah, we'll see. See how it goes. So there, you can end up seeing our a little bit of glowing that we got going on there. Not bad. And what did I paint that center one, the Tesseract? No, I'll just leave that for another color. Move on to the metallic super silver. And we will paint this up. There's a little bit of eyeball on there. We'll just kind of go around. We'll just try to and we do have a lot on there, so we'll just kind of get off some of this excess, and then we'll go back and kind of wick that up a little bit. Kind of put some of this on here as like a little bit of shiny. Kind of blend that in there and we'll see how that works. And, dun, dun. Hey, we've got M. Siha. Says, I only have one Krylon can, bought it because of YouTuber recommendation. Krylon is not that popular in EU except online, but it was worth the extra cost. That paint is great. Camouflage, ultra flat. Yeah, the thing I like about the Krylon is that this is a primer and a paint. So yeah, I kind of dig that. That is kind of a good thing. So that I enjoy. And I can get it here in Korea because of where I'm at. So that is kind of good, but it depends. That's the other thing. It really depends because sometimes they have it and sometimes they don't. Just try to get a little bit of source lighting glow on here. Use it kind of like a glaze to try to take a look at that. You can see how that turns out. And that really does redeem that color. Even though that sparkly silver is super sparkly. The brown wash does a pretty decent job. And yeah, it really redeems that. So we'll see how that goes. Now, this is the color that I think is going to be really good. Dun, dun, dun. Super matte, dries quite fast, but smell stays for longer. Yeah, that's true. Now we're going to move on to the metallic dark metal. So if we get a little look at that. So the brown is on the right, dark is on the left. And we'll see how the Tesseract glow pops in. I just get a little bit. You just get a little bit too much. Just try to get a little bit on the eyes there. Again, we'll get the elbow. We get his toe. And this is to simulate like the orbs on the Necrons to see how these would turn out. And I put a little thing on the sword there. I put a little bit of a, we'll just kind of add a little bit of a little glow to that. See how that turns out. And then, yeah. See how that goes. And we can do a little bit of OS object source lighting, maybe. I think that's what it's called. Try to get some of that on there. Just kind of. Necrons seem pretty easy. It would seem pretty easy to paint. So I think that'll it'll look pretty good. And especially if we add some, you know, some good colors and everything, I think it could really pop. And you can see how that goes. We got thickness back. Krylon has some lines with a 48-hour dry time. I have to be careful and really read the labels. Oh, I will, definitely. You can recoat that before dry time you get cracking. Oh, that is good to know. Thank you. George says, I was meaning to ask how well did the print absorb the paint? These are resin printed with eSun PLA Pro. So in the fact that this and this are primer and paint, it did really well. This was really good, and so was the Rust-Oleum metallic silver. It was, all of them kind of did really well with coating the figure. So I was really surprised on that. The silver, this Krylon metallic silver, maybe I didn't shake it up enough, but it kind of had a little bit of issue. But it ended up working out in the end. And honestly, I think it was just because of the shaking of the can, or the lack of shaking, or not enough. They had been sitting around for a while. So there, you can see how that turns out, which isn't too bad. Yeah, got a little bit of glaze and glow going on. So those turned out nice. So now, should probably get some clean water. But, oh well, next time. Now the question is, when I do my combat patrol, when I get that, I want to try to streamline it and do an assembly line process. So I'll probably do them all in, if I end up using this stuff, the Krylon, this metallic finish, which, I don't know, we'll see how that goes. Yeah. Oh, you know we can do. Forgot. Let's take this Tesseract and we'll do the bottom left foot of each of these. And that way we can get a look at how that looks with the dark, or the dark wash. I totally forgot about that. So we'll just do the foot there and get that going. That way we can kind of get an idea of what that'll look like. Just kind of get a little bit of a try to simulate a little bit of a glow there on that. We'll see how that goes. And we'll do the same thing with these. Just knock that out real quick. Oh no! Oh, he's broken. I broke off his little antenna things on the back there. Oh no. Which I have done on these before. Now this resin isn't really the best resin. I think when I printed them out, these are water washable resin. So water washable resin is really brittle. And so yeah, it's not recommended for miniatures that you're going to be playing with because they're so brittle. So yeah, imagine that. What are the odds? Kind of get a little bit of this off there, and there we can end up seeing how that looks. That color there with the black, which is gold. I don't think gold will work as a base color for me personally anyway. So maybe for somebody else. I mean, I've seen some pretty wild color schemes. Seen every color of the rainbow. So, yeah. And then the other thing you could end up doing too is, I think, now here's the problem that we're running into with this black on the silver, is the paint is pulling off that dark wash. As you can see there on his lower shin guard. It's actually pulling off that dark, and so we do get the shade on there, the glow, but it's actually pulling the dark off of there. So interesting, something to take note of. So I think we're good with the Tesseract, and then now we'll go to the airbrush in the Gauss green, which is, by the way, the name of the Gauss rifles that the Necron warriors have. It's called a Gauss rifle. And so we'll mix this up a little bit and we'll see what it does. I was meaning to ask, how did the print absorb the paint? Yeah, we hit that up. I did pretty good on all of them. The primer, the paint, which are these two here, and this is just It doesn't say primer, and the silver just, it doesn't say it's primer either, but it did really well. The only one was the metallic silver one, the super sparkly one. I was expecting a little bit better. But so this Gauss rifle, let's check this out. The cool thing about the airbrush paints is that they are basically already thinned out. Ooh, look at that. Like a minty type of color. That is interesting. So you can get a different type of glow. Interesting indeed. Whereas the regular army painter paints, you're going to end up having to thin them out. And let's see. And then now, this will be interesting to see if we can do a little bit, kind of like just glaze that on, but it's taken off that black again. So interesting on the silver. It is so shiny that that dark wash is just kind of, it's being pulled off. It's being reactivated by this paint. So again, I don't know if this would be something that would be worth doing, because it's just pulling that stuff right off. So yeah, interesting. It's probably not a good thing. So yeah, that kind of pulls this out of the running, because it just basically strips that off, that black wash. So you get like a little bit of a subdued color on that. Let's see, can we get it to focus? Focus! And yeah, it just reactivates that dark wash, and it just pulls it right off the silver, because the silver is so slick and shiny. So interesting color, but yeah, it's just not. Let's save the centerpiece for some other color. We'll see how that goes. Dun, 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 dun. Tasteful, tasteful. Is there another color that we could use? We could use speed paints. We could do like a shamrock green. We could do that on some stuff. But let's finish up with our color that we got here, our gauze green. On these guys here. That is quite the interesting color. Load that up again. It's a little thick too. just going to put it on thick and we'll see what happens. So, and if we did 2 thin coats, we'll do the eyeball. I forgot the eyeball on the other guy. Let's go back to him real quick. So there, if we can get that to zoom in, boom. So it's kind of an interesting color. I don't know, it kind of depends on what you're going for colors. And then there is the possibility that you could like mix and match these colors as well. Try to blend them together. I mean, I'd have done that. Have the darker, this gauze green be on the outside and then use the yellow on the inside. And so that way you get kind of more of a rounded look on that. But let's see. And that's really thick. So we would have to thin this out a bit. Make it more like a glaze because that's a little too thick for kind of like the glow that we're seeing, or the glow that we want to get compared to the yellow. Not too bad though. Just have to remember that if we do some glow work here, then what we would have to do is make sure that we water this down a little bit. That's probably even a bit much there. But let's take a look at that and we'll see how this goes. Focus. So, interesting. Let's just go ahead and we'll do is, well, we'll save that for another color. We'll save the little piping for the shamrock green in the center. We'll do the shamrock green with that. I'm really hoping the proxy unit that is printing out on the Saturn III Ultra will come out, because I changed the FEP and I didn't do a test piece, so I just figured, let's just throw it on there. We'll see what happens. So it's a little thick on there. Again, a little bit of water. It's a bit much, but I think we can get a little bit off of there. Okay, so there is our green. We ended up getting. To get it darker, you probably have to do a couple of coats. Or like I said, we could use that gauze green as a darker outside and then do the that tesseract green in the center of the orb, because that comes out really, really almost yellowish. It's got a green tinge, but it's got yellow, which, you know what? I'm just kind of curious. You just put some of this. Let's see if we can blend this in a little bit. Yeah, that's not bad. Let's see, we get a little bit on that that foot there. So we use the gauze green, and then the other one, the tesseract, kind of in the middle, kind of gives it a little bit of color on there. Yeah, I think you'd need a darker, even darker color to really get the edges, because that's still like a but that's still not too bad. You can see what I'm saying? But I think with a darker color that might turn out even better. Interesting, interesting. Let's go ahead and we'll see if we can do a little bit on here. That could be worth something. So you put it on there, it's not bad. Now to our Krylon dark metallic. Let's jump in on that. And we will let the games begin. Okay. A little bit more. And look at all the rules, because I picked up the codex for the Necrons, which has the lore and all that stuff. Good Lord, there's a lot of rules. I don't know if this old dog is going to be able to do that. I don't know. But yeah, they got some crazy stuff as far as rules, that's for sure. We'll see how that goes. Again, never played Warhammer, but we will see. let's do that bottom foot again. We'll just do a little ring around there. Just hit the rim. Rim job. Rim job is good. Rim job is good. So there is what we end up with a little bit. Interesting, interesting. And with that gauze, we can go around the edge on this, edging on the foot there with this gauze green on top of the tesseract, and we can kind of hit that up. So yeah, you can see how that goes. Not bad, not bad. I like that actually, because it makes a more rounded look instead of just, you know, fluorescent, boom, there it is. So with that said, let's go back, do the same thing on these guys, on their feet. Not that I would use gold, but if we're going to do this, we might as well. And then the other thing I saw people doing was getting ink, green ink, and then spraying green ink for the glow on the surrounding areas. So instead of having to kind of, you know, brush this on, that you would just get a green ink, and then you could kind of throw that on there. So, but again, with the gold and the silver, kind of peels that off. So the other thing I guess you would have to do with this, if you're doing the gold and the silver, you would have to base paint them, and then what you'd have to end up doing is going through and do a matte varnish on it, and then you could go back and add your glow. So interesting. In the feet, haven't really done any glow things, so yeah. I'll do our super silver guy, the Silver Surfer with swords. I'll hit him up real quick. And so yeah, definitely with the shinier, like this silver, we would definitely have to go through, and because it's just pulling that varnish right off there. Could you imagine that if you're like, hey, I'm going to use the silver for all my Necrons, and you paint them all silver, and then you start doing this, and it's like it ruins it? That would suck. Because yeah, you can see where it's, as I'm trying to, yeah, it's bringing that right off. Especially right on that toe, you can see that. So focus, focus, come on. Focus in there, buddy. There we go. Maybe. So, note to self, really shiny stuff, you need to be careful. Probably have to varnish that in with a matte varnish and then go back, or high gloss varnish if that's your choice. And now let's go ahead and get this Shamrock Green speed paint, and we'll throw that onto the back because we left a little center dot on there of all our gentlemen. We got a little bit there, we'll put it on there. And yeah. So I definitely want to experiment before I jump into doing the Necrons, because like I said, those things cost a pretty penny. So let's try the Shamrock, the luck of the Irish, and we'll see what happens. I think the speed paints would be really good. Because they're pretty translucent. And we'll just do his eyes since we forgot to. But is that going to be enough? It's a little bit of a darker, and we could kind of command a little bit of a darker color. That's the whole idea of a speed paint, is to go in the recesses and get that color. The speed paint, we can kind of, because it is so transparent, good thing is we could pop in and do a little bit of shading. A little bit. Interesting. You'd have to kind of blot that in a little bit because it's just a bit too much. So, but it's interesting color. Let's go ahead and we'll do these things. The cables. And there we can get our, so that looks kind of interesting right there. So yeah, it's a little bit of a different color, obviously. But yeah. Interesting. Go to our Silver Surfer dude here. We have to load up a little bit more. Kind of the same thing. It's going to take away some of that So it's going to remove that prior wash, especially on the silver, because it's so shiny and so smooth. So yeah. So yeah, so on the right side is the Tesseract green. On the left is the gauze green. And then on the center there was the speed paint, the shamrock green. So yeah, interesting. For me personally, I wouldn't use the silver or the gold, not for Necrons. Because the washes just come off so easy. It's an interesting little color that comes out of it, kind of like a copper or kind of a brassy looking type on this with the brown, with the dark on these kind of antiques it, makes it kind of look old and worn. Not super shiny gold, and with the silver I actually like how that turns out with the silver, because it really darkens it up and it makes it look, you know, for like I don't think about for Warhammer, but if you had like knights, medieval knights and stuff like that, I think that would work out well. I don't think these would be good for Necrons. So that brings us to our metallic silver, our super sparkly guy, which you can see. And I'm not digging those sparkles. That's just not giving me a bunch of joy, personally. It's just like, too much sparkles. I don't want a bedazzled Necron. And so with that, I don't know, this metallic dark seems to be, out of all of these, seems to be the best choice. You get a little bit of sparkle in there, but it's not crazy. Let me see if we can get the, it's not too crazy. And then the other thing we could end up doing is you could also put that dark metallic Krylon on there as a base coat, or maybe do a black base coat and then do this color. And then what you could end up doing is you could also go back and you could dry brush kind of like a bronze to highlight instead of just having it all one color. And then you could also go through and you could dry brush some silver to get some highlights to break up some of that as well. That could be interesting. Maybe that's something we should take a look at here. Dry brush. I didn't wash this. It's still got the... Let's see if we can do a little bit of dry brush on this guy. See if we can get something, bring something out. So with this, my guess is I would probably have to use like a broadsword silver, plate mail, or gunmetal. See, this one's a little bit shinier. So this is more gray, and this one has the plate mail. Let's try the plate mail. And we'll mix this baby up. We'll see if we can do a little dry brushing, kind of bring out some of the edges. The other thing you could also do is use the side of your brush and kind of run it along edges, like the sword edge, to get some edge highlighting and some line work. I haven't used this in a minute, so we're going to have to let that shake up fairly well. And I picked up, for these paints, the Arteco paints that I have, like that, and these, which are really good, but they're really thick. So we're going to need to thin these out, but I bought some dropper bottles to do that. So we're going to have to get some paint thinner, a little bit of thinner, thin these out, put them in their own little bottles, and we'll make some paint racks for those. And that could work out well. So we would have our speed paints, our army paint or regular paint 2.0, and then we have an airbrush paints, and then our Citadel paints, which are up above there. So yeah. Now the thing about these definitely need some thinning down. Where is my... I got a tiny bit of water in there. Where's my little dropper? Where? Oh, there it is. So I need to clean up the other desk. The poor axe is on the back burner for a while. Yeah, I know, it is. It truly is. I will get to it. I just got sidetracked by Necrons. Sue me. Well, don't sue me, but you know what I'm talking about. Let's go ahead and we'll mix this up a little bit. I might have done too much water, maybe. It's just going to end up being a dry brush anyway, so I think we'll be okay. But I'll eventually get to it. George says squirrel. Yeah, exactly. That is exactly it. Squirrel moment. And that's the excuse behind that is because I've been hanging out at that game store and hanging around all the Warhammer people. So let's see if we can't add a that's helping. A little bit. little bit of help. I don't want to go too crazy with it. So I think that's what we got there. What are some other things we can do on this? Oh, I got some panel lighting, but I don't have green, unfortunately. I was going to get on to the lettering on that, but let's see how this turned out, because I think we're just about good on this. So you can see we got a little bit on there. A little bit of dry brushing brought out some silver highlighting on there. Our greens turned out okay. Nothing professional, that's for sure. But at least it's some practice before I jump into my Necrons. And I'm still not sure whether I want to do my Necrons with the Krylon Dark Metallic. And that's what this one is. So I don't know. Tell me what you think in the comments section, which one you like. So this is the Dark Metallic. On the right side is the brown wash. On the left side is the dark wash. And then of course we have the Tesseract, which is kind of the brighter yellow, and then the gauze green is the darker. And then the speed paint was the one that was right there. So I don't know, tell me what you think. Is it worth doing? Or should I continue testing and then try out? Honestly, I'm thinking about maybe doing another one with this Arteco paint with lead belcher and use that as a base coat. So we might do another one. I'll try that. Okay, there we have it, folks. I think we're good for now. We do have some bonus content. And part of the bonus content is this guy right here. So this is just like an Apex third-party wannabe Warhammer type of guy, and he turned out pretty decent. I was just kind of screwing around, give me something to paint, and then I did the base. So a little bit of grass there. And so if you're wondering how to do some base action, get you a jar of dirt or a bag of dirt. And what we'll end up doing, the other thing that you'll need is some Elmer's glue or PVA glue. And then we have our other dude here, which is the chunky dude. And I just kind of speed painted him fast. Nothing real crazy. I thought it turned, yeah, I think it turned out okay. But it's just kind of a one-off, just to paint and get him off the pile of shame. But with the white, what we'll end up doing is we'll get the PVA glue and we'll put that on the base and we'll spread that around. And then we'll dunk the base into the sand, and we should get a sand base. I'll just make sure we get a good amount of glue on here. And we'll clean the tip. Always keep your tip clean, gentlemen. Always keep your tip clean. And then what we'll end up doing here is we'll use our little tool, we'll spread around the glue. And so we got an even coat. Got a little bit on his shoe, but that should be okay. Make sure I've got the glue on everything that I need to have glue on. Now we'll just go around the edge. Again, edging is good. Edging is good. Okay, so now that we've got our PVA glue on there, then what we'll end up doing is we just kind of set this in there. We'll just kind of put the sand around him. And boom, there we have it. So there is our base. And the only other thing to do is we could pop in a little bit of grass on there. And I think we could call this guy done. Of course, after you put the grass on, the other thing that you would have to do is to do some varnish and seal all this in. So we're just going to get a little bit of tuft of grass. Just put that on there, and there is our chunky monkey. A little bit of grass, a little bit of basing, and you could even, after this dries, you could go back and you could do some washes on here to try to, you know, make up some little different stuff on here to make it a little bit more interesting, or some variation in the color. But that's the bonus. Yeah, there we have it. Bonus. Alrighty. And the bag of sand comes courtesy of the playground in our apartment building complex. Shh, don't tell him. Don't tell him I took the sand. Okay. Alrighty. I think we're done. We're good with all of this. And so what we'll end up doing is maybe the next video we'll take a look and see, hopefully keep the fingers crossed, to see if our resin printer will print out those proxies, the Necron people. Hopefully. We'll see how that goes. Okay, let's get back to the desk and we'll finish this up. Boom, we are done. So anyway, that's what we ended up doing today. Worked out pretty well. We got some good ideas. I don't know if it's worth, definitely silver is going to be no. We're throwing that out. Gold is going to be, we're not going to do that for Necrons. The shiny metallic silver from Krylon, too many sparkly bits in there. We're not bedazzling our Necrons. We're definitely not going to do that. So the metallic dark metal, from the Krylon Fusion paint, that seems out of those, that would be my choice. Is that going to be my choice overall? I don't know, because honestly, if you're going to do a whole combat patrol in a army, you need to have the same, and so I got to have a lot of paint. The other one is that Arteco paint, that Black Pearl, which is kind of like a lead belcher wannabe, which looks really good. We'd have to thin that out. We'll put them into, I've got a bag of bottles here somewhere, and then make sure that we have enough to do all of those. So, but with that, I'd have to paint them all. I don't know if I want to paint them all with a paintbrush. So I'd have to thin them out so it could be used in an airbrush, and then we'd have to do a test on the airbrush to see how that would turn out. So do I have another figure? Yeah, I've got some other figures. So I could take like, we got like this guy here. So we could do him with that black pearl that we have with our Teco, and we could run him through the airbrush, and we could see how that would turn out. This is water washable resin, so he's like really, really brittle. So if I drop this, that would probably break. But the details you get on resin aren't pretty good compared to FDM printing. So we'll get this guy. We'll do the Arteco paint. We'll give that a shot, and we'll see how that runs. And then by that time, depending on what comes out, maybe it'll be the Arteco paint, maybe it'll be the Krylon Fusion dark metallic paint that we'll use over a black primer. I think that could work out. And then if the lead belcher stuff doesn't, it depends on how that works as well. So we got a tie for first place without even trying the lead belcher wannabe from Arteco. So that's how hopeful I am of that. So we'll see how that goes. And then after all that, again, once the Saturn III Ultra, matter of fact, let me see. Dun, 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 dun. I'm wondering if I can use my camera to I think I have to be on the same Wi-Fi, and we might be able to use this phone as a camera. I don't know. We'll see. Keep your fingers crossed. Okay, we got sound. Do we have picture? No, we don't have picture. No. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. That's just really weird. I don't know why it does that. ExpressVPN, I got Denver there. Maybe that's the issue, is we don't have the same VPN. So let me go back here. I'll change the VPN to, no, I don't want Los Angeles. I want Denver. Connect. We're connected. Yay. And now, let's see if we can add. Oh, and now it's not going to come up as adding because it. Seriously? Really? That's how you're going to do me? Okay. I was hoping to get the other camera and we could go in there and take a look and see how the resin printer is doing, but I guess we can't do that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But once you go back, you never go back. Or you probably usually don't go back. I love my Mac computer, but there's times where sometimes I'm just like, but then I'm reminded on how great Mac is when I have to use my Windows laptop, and I'm like, seriously? It's like, holy crap. I love my Mac. So anyway, that's what we got going on. The thing that you can do for me right now is to like this video, subscribe to the channel, ring that bell so that you can be apprised of future videos that comes up. And for example, when we do the Necron proxy guys, so you could take your time and do that. And again, this is going to be from JD Miniatures on My Mini Factory. So we kind of got that guy there. And we've got this guy here, which is going to be the other guy that I'm going to try to print out, that is printing out, hopefully. We'll see what happens. We'll find out later, but we're printing those out and we'll do some more practice on some of these Necrons to see if I can get a paint scheme down and if I can get it painted and look at halfway good. And then we could move on to eventually getting my combat patrol and painting those guys up into a decent looking army, and eventually learn how to play Warhammer 40K. So yeah, that's what we got going on. Like I said, we did our test. It turned out pretty decent. We've got our little guys there. Can we zoom in? I think yes, we can. So there's our guys. And actually, those turned out pretty decent. Again, I wouldn't use the silver. I wouldn't use the gold. The one second from the left, that is a metallic silver from Krylon Fusion, but it's just too many sparklies in it. So the one on the far left, which is the dark metal, that would be the one that I would use at this time. If I had to die on a sword, if I had to fall on my sword, I would use the one on the far left. So, and with whatever green glowing paint, I'm not sure. But whatever it is, we want to standardize all of those things, learn some new techniques. We'll get a Necron army or at least a combat patrol painted, and we'll take it from there. And Lord, in the worst case scenario, we prime them and paint them all over again. So there's that. And because I definitely wouldn't want to throw them away, because GW Games miniatures are insanely expensive. So I get it. They need to make money, but come on, throw us a bone. Some of those things are just, they're just too damn expensive. GW, what they need to do, really, let me get my drink. What GW needs to do is they can have their plastic pieces. I totally get that. Their sprues, their plastic models, the whole 9 yards, I totally get that. But they need to have like another department so that they create and sell STL models for people who do 3D printing. And you could charge a premium price, you know. You could even do something with like a commercial license, and people sell, and you know, or whatever. You have to pay. Unfortunately, GW would probably say like a subscription fee to have a commercial license to sell those things. It would probably be exorbitant. But I think GW is they're too corporate. They're too greedy, and they would see that as that they would lose money, and people would just let all the models just go wild and free. And I don't know, but we don't see that problem with other creators. So you can have a personal license and you could have like a commercial license. So I think that's something that they should end up doing. I don't know. I don't think they'll do it, but they should. So anyway, that's going to be it for today. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate that. George, Zombie Hunter, everybody else. Who do we have? The Thickness? Do we have Thickness here? Yes, Thickness was here. We had EM Siha. Talking about that super mat, dries quite fast, but smell stays longer. Yeah, so he was on board, and a number of other people who didn't chime in today, and that's okay. If you don't want to chime in, you just want to hang out. I appreciate it because I can hang around a bunch of cool people like you, and being retired here in Korea, I'm living in Korea. This gives me a chance to socialize, hang around good people. I end up being a better person, so it's a win-win for me, and hopefully it's a win-win for you. So anyway, with that said, if you want to contact me, you can. You would think the YouTube thing, but honestly, this is the email address. I always answer my emails. So that is the 100% sure way to get in touch with me. Show me what you're doing, what you're printing, painting, or send me tips or suggestions or videos on how to be a better printer, painter, all-around good person, make me a better person. That's how you can contact me. A bunch of people send me coffee. You can do that as well if you want to do that. Link in the description box. But like I said, the very best thing that you could do is like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I would be happy with that. I would be totally happy with that. Don't worry about the coffee. That's just every once in a while. So anyway, Zombie Hunter gives a thumbs up, and he also throws out "See ya, everyone." So hopefully you all will have a good week. It is Monday here in Korea, so that means it's Sunday in the United States-ish type of part of the world. Other places, I'm not sure what day it is, but hopefully you'll have a good week. Make it to the weekend. Have some fun. Do it before it's too late. I mean, I'm 60. I'm going to be 60 this year. I wish I had gotten into 3D printing. I wish I had gotten into gaming and more of this stuff earlier on in my adult life. I did it before as a youngster, but I wish I continued that on. And it's a good hobby. It's a good thing. Don't put it off until it's too late. So have fun. Do it now. And with that said, we'll see you on the next video. All right? Peace. Decisions. What paint are we?